Aloha, everyone. My name is Rob Haak. I'm from the Hawaii Pacific Export Council in Honolulu. We are one of 61 district export councils around the country. We are the by far the farthest from Washington, D.C., and we are an offshoot of the U.S. Department of Commerce, and it is our task to help companies in Hawaii and Pacific Islands export their products to foreign countries. And just to be clear, export really does mean a foreign country. So from Hawaii to Canada, which is the subject of today's talk, or Hawaii to Germany, or Hawaii to Japan, but certainly not Hawaii to California or Kansas or what have you. So this is purely export today, and we're talking about Canada specifically. And I'm very excited to talk about Canada because, as I've said many times in these webinars, that I feel that our local companies spend a lot of time and energy and money working on difficult markets first, such as Japan or China or what have you, rather than a country where we generally share the same language and an enormous border such as Canada, as well as a free trade agreement. So we have speakers today that are going to talk about Canada specifically. John Fleming is here from U.S. Commercial Service. He's based in Ottawa, which is the capital of Canada. A lot of people would fail that question on Jeopardy, I think.
Right.
And Annisa Estrella is from the Hawaii Department of Agriculture. But first, I'd like to turn the microphone over to our great friend, Jamie Lum from DBEDT, and she's going to say a few words about the High Step program. And I asked Jamie to speak at this program today simply because we work so closely with DBEDT, and we thank them for the grant that we receive from DBEDT and SBA every year that allows us to put on a series of webinars and perform these one-on-one company mentoring sessions that we do. So Jamie, please, and I will share your website behind us.
Good morning, and aloha, everyone. Thank you to HPEC, to Rob, and to Dave again for inviting me to be here this morning. So pleased to give a little bit of information about our Hawaii State Trade Expansion Program, otherwise known as High Step. It is primarily supported through a grant that we received from the Small Business Administration. And the whole program is designed for both new to export companies as well as companies that are already exporting, with the goals in mind of trying to get more Hawaii companies out into the global marketplace, both products and services from Hawaii. And we want to see the dollar value of those products and services increase as they are exported outside of our state. And lastly, we want to penetrate a larger portion of the global markets out there with our Hawaii products and services. So we are very happy to partner with people, organizations such as HPEC to put the program together. High Step consists of three basic components. And thank you, Rob, for putting our website up there. So we have our Export Readiness Program, which consists of sections much like this, where they are either focused on export-related topics, and we work, Rob is actually the person that helps us put all of these sessions together. So for instance, just a few weeks ago, we had one on intellectual property and legal considerations for doing business internationally. We've had other types of, we have one later on export financing, just a number of different programs topic related. And then we have programs like what you're seeing today that are market specific. So I'm just happy to see people that are interested in the Canada market. And we look forward to hearing from John a little bit there. We do also have one coming up in about 2 weeks or towards the end of the month on Vietnam. So that's all part of our export readiness. Along with the training programs, we also do partner with HPEC as well as some other organizations to do a one-on-one business consultation with companies that register for High Step. The intent is to see where companies are at in their export journey, what their goals are, and to kind of help guide these companies along, either with activities that are included in High Step or other kinds of activities that companies can use to help really build their export development journey. The second component of our program is what we call our Hawaii Pavilions, and that's where we've worked with the Department of Agriculture on this as well, where we organize a Hawaii Pavilion at a major international trade show. We will recruit Hawaii companies to be part of this pavilion to come together really and promote their individual products and services while also being under the Hawaii brand. So we feel that the advantage of participating in these Hawaii pavilions is that number one, we try to make it affordable for companies to participate in these very large shows. We do charge a small participation fee, but it's probably maybe about a quarter to a third of what a company would spend if they were going to go into one of these shows on their own. And then secondly, just again, that Hawaii banner and being together as a group under that Hawaii brand is really very powerful. Companies have found that in itself really helps to draw attention to their product and their service. So we have Rob to that page where we have several shows that we've already done, and then we have a few more coming up. Annisa can talk about some of what they have coming up later in the summer, and then in the fall we have our Honkia Hawaii Fair and the Tokyo International Gift Show. So those are events that are very well attended by our Hawaii companies. So that's the second component. And then lastly, we have our our company assistance, which is actual direct financial assistance to companies. It's done through a separate application process where companies submit their export plan, and then there's an evaluation committee that looks at it. But basically, this gives companies a chance to support other types of activities that they want to do to further their exports outside of the pavilions that we do. They can go to other trade shows. For instance, as you see, we don't have any Hawaii pavilions in Canada, but if a company is interested in doing a show in Canada, they could always put that into their export plan and come to us to request funds that can be used to help support their trade show costs, that can be used to cover their airfare. And then there are a lot of other kinds of expenses that the company assistance can cover, like gold key service, which is something John can mention in his presentation. If you need to do product testing for your product in order for it to be certified to be sold in a particular market, it can be used for that. It can be used for shipping sample products to a potential buyer or distributor. So there are a number of different types of expenses for your website. If you need to do any website translation or set up for e-commerce and take international payments to do digital marketing. SBA has really opened up the use of these funds, especially during the pandemic when there were not trade shows in person, people were not traveling, and companies had to find other ways to be able to sell their products. So that's the last component of our of High Step. So companies that are interested, the first step of what they would do is to go to register for High Step, and there's no cost to do that, and it also doesn't obligate you to participate in any other of the activities under the program. Basically, we just want to get information about your company and then be able to put you in contact with one of our partner organizations so that you can get started. So Thank you again for your for being here today. Thank you to HPEC for inviting me. And if you have any questions, you can always reach out to me, or Rob also knows how to get in touch with me. So again, thank you so much, Rob. Appreciate the time.
Jamie, thank you very much. Again, Jamie's organization's website is invest.hawaii.gov. While I have the browser open, I'd just like to point people to our YouTube archive. If you go to YouTube and look up the Hawaii Pacific Export Council, we have a vast archive of which the recording of this meeting will make it onto the website in the next few days after a little bit of editing. But you can see we have a lot of country-specific events, such as today, focus on Canada, but we have topic-specific, such as Jamie mentioned, the most recent one was intellectual property protection, legal issues, and contracts. Then we have even island-specific activities, such as exporting from the Big Island. In a few weeks, we will be going to Kauai and working on a exporting from Kauai event. So please try to attend these. And if you can, go back and look at the videos that are in the archive, because I think some of them will be really interesting for the products and services that you're trying to export. So with that, by the way, John, I have Canada trade.gov Canada website here if you want to refer to anything. With that, I'd like to introduce John Fleming, who we are fortunate enough to have with us here in Honolulu. He is visiting, has been to and coming back from American Samoa, and I think we have some people from American Samoa on the call this morning via Zoom. So I'm going to bring up your presentation. Okay, great. And I'll just switch seats and just use this arrow to
forward with the arrow,
Yep.
please.
All right, I'll be here.
Fantastic. All right. Well, good morning, everybody. And Rob, thanks for that introduction. Very happy to be here. I'll start with advance the slide here. Yeah, I'll start with a small anecdote. So apparently there is a special connection between Hawaii and Canada. I'm sure all of you know a lot more about it than I do, but it came to my attention as I prepared for today's meeting. And that is, so in the late 1700s, apparently it was a time of strife in the Hawaiian Islands, and some ethnic Hawaiians ended up, moving to a cluster of islands that is now just off the coast of British Columbia. And so these Hawaiian settlers, took their traditions of fishing and farming to this area that will soon to become Canada. Back in those days, the U.S. and Canadian border was not yet defined. And then in the 1850s, when that border was established, some of these ethnic Hawaiians moved to the United States, but others stayed on. And so, and apparently there's still this group there today. So that's just one piece of history showing the connection between Hawaii and Canada. So I'll start with a quote from President Kennedy. It's a very nice quote, and I'll read it for you. Geography has made us neighbors. History has made us friends. Economics has made us partners. And this is, if you visit the U.S. Embassy in Ottawa, this is engraved in stone on the 4th floor. So it just captures the special relationship between the U.S. and Canada. So about U.S.-Canada trade. So it's really the most important trade relationship that the United States has. I'll just highlight 2 points from this slide, and that is $2.5 billion in trade volume crosses the border every day. So just to give you a sense of how large the trade relationship is. The other thing is it's very important for individual states, particularly the border states, but 34 US states name Canada as their top export destination. So I asked my staff to look into some of the Hawaii-Canadian trade highlights. Canada is, of course, very important in terms of tourism for Hawaii. There's in Canada, the winters are long and cold, and there's a fair number of snowbirds that come to Hawaii every year. They also travel to the Western US, out of Western Canada, and in Eastern Canada, you have snowbirds going to South Carolina and Florida. So tourism, I think, is very important for Hawaii, and certainly is for Canada that want to look into US travel. Let me. I'm not going to do a deep dive on these slides. I'm gonna move through. Here's a chart on the Hawaii's top 5 exports to Canada. No surprises. Coffee and agriculture, insects, bees. So heavy on the agricultural side. But what I think with the next slide, okay, this is what Hawaii is sending to Canada. Sorry, this is Canadian exports to Hawaii: lumber, wood panels. It's obviously, there's it's the strongest trade relationship, and Hawaii has plays a big part of that. But there's I think there's more you can do. I'll highlight these best prospects for Canada. Again, no surprises: defense and aerospace, ICT, energy, automotive, healthcare. I'll highlight supply chain security. So there's more and more of a dialogue about North American supply chains. A lot of this has to do with the emphasis now on outcompeting China. And maybe 5 years ago, we weren't talking to Canada in these terms, but now there's a lot of momentum on trying to secure supply chains within North America. And again, Hawaii can be a part of that.
Sorry, John, your slides aren't showing.
So what are some recommendations? Obviously, travel and tourism, that's huge. We also promote, out of Canada, we promote, study in the US. So, there's an opportunity for Hawaiian schools to attract Canadian students. Foreign direct investment. I'm positive Hawaii is taking part in the upcoming Select USA Summit in Washington that happens in May. So, we always encourage the US as an investment destination, and we will take a Canadian delegation to the summit in May. And so that's an opportunity to meet and discuss investment leads. And of course, agriculture. You'll be hearing more about that from the next speaker. This is my contact information. So I'm in Ottawa, and I'm always happy to help. John Holman is our director, our commercial service director here in Honolulu. I know all of you know him. And I thought I would just highlight a few other things. This is the end of the slides, but I thought I would highlight a few opportunities and a few other aspects of the relationship. I understand that this council is also focused on South Pacific. I was, as Rob mentioned, I was in American Samoa just earlier this week. And there as well, I gave a small talk. And I mentioned that the Biden administration has established last fall a US Pacific partnership. So that's a framework to help 14 nations in the South Pacific. And there's 11 pillars to that partnership. I would highlight disaster resiliency, climate change, and the Blue Pacific as some highlights where I think perhaps Hawaiian companies can play a role. The US government under this framework will get more involved in promoting and developing these South Pacific country markets. USTDA is developing, reverse trade missions for that region. The Development Finance Corporation, DFC, is looking into providing, grants for it under climate finance and other development projects. So again, it might be an opportunity for Hawaiian companies to lend expertise, and I think you're well positioned to join this effort. Again, it goes back to out competing China. They have a strong presence already there and are very aggressive about it. And so hopefully this framework allows the US to get involved. And again, I think it's an opportunity for Hawaiian companies. We have, but getting back to Canada. So, and as Rob mentioned, for any US company, but that includes Hawaii, Canada is a natural market to look at for exporting. There's no language barrier. Of course, the eastern part, the province of Quebec, is French speaking, but the rest of Canada, English, and the long border that they share. It's you saw the quote from Kennedy, "We're neighbors." It's an easy export destination. The commercial service, we have a strong presence there. I'm based in Ottawa. We have a team in Montreal, Toronto, and Calgary to assist. But we cover the entire country. We don't have anyone in Vancouver, but we do cover it. Great opportunities there. We would welcome Hawaiian companies to take a closer look. But I want to mention two events coming up that could be of interest. Jamie mentioned the High Step grants. We would encourage Hawaiian companies to take advantage of that and come see us in Canada. So the first opportunity, actually, there's a conference for the Western Hemisphere. These are for all the markets that the commercial service serves in Western Hemisphere. So that includes Canada and Mexico, as well as all the Latin American countries. This conference will take place in September in Washington, D.C. So that's one opportunity.
Go ahead.
And as a follow-on to that conference, there will be a series of goal keys that we'll perform for any companies. Jamie mentioned our goal keys. That's our matchmaking service in a nutshell. And we'll be encouraging U.S. companies to apply for this conference and follow-up trade mission. And we'd like to take companies to all of the markets in Canada. So as far east as Halifax in Atlantic Canada to Vancouver in British Columbia. So we will as companies register for that conference and trade mission, we will find the best fit for you, and we would welcome your participation. The second event I'd like to highlight, and this relates to maybe something you haven't thought about much, and that is Canada's Arctic is an emerging market. So we do a lot of Arctic programming in Commercial Service Canada. It's a challenging market, as you can imagine. The development needs in the Arctic are what you'd see at any kind of frontier market. They need infrastructure, they need IT, they need healthcare. There's tremendous opportunities, but it's very challenging. It's very remote. I would just share that 80% of Canada's population lives within 100 miles of the US-Canada border. So in the northern communities, it's very remote, but there are opportunities. So we've done a lot of Arctic programming to date. We took a business mission to Washington, D.C. of Arctic project stakeholders. And here's one interesting angle, I think, especially for Hawaiian companies, and that is to navigate Canada's Arctic, you have to build partnerships with the Canadian Indigenous business organizations. And so in the East, the Inuit, and in the West, the First Nations. And we've made a lot of progress in building these partnerships. for U.S. companies. I think this ethnic angle, this indigenous angle would be of strong interest, for sure on the Canadian side. That's a request we hear a lot is there's a desire to meet their indigenous counterparts in the U.S. So I mentioned this mission we took to Washington. We had 14 indigenous business organizations, and we partnered with a group you probably know, the National Center for American Indian Enterprise Development. So that allowed Native American SMEs to have one-on-one discussions with some of these Canadian indigenous groups. So as a follow-on to that business mission, we will take a trade mission to Yellowknife later this year, late summer, and that's in the Northwest Territories. So it's tough to get to, but very doable. Again, if some high-step grant funds are available for travel, this would be a really interesting opportunity. We'll work with the Northwest Territory Chamber of Mines to set up this mission. We expect to have local government support, site visits, engagement with Canadian Indigenous business organizations, and it just might be pretty cool for a Hawaiian company to make their way there, because I said it's challenging, but it's also their first mover advantages for sure. So less competition, and if you're offering solutions in, anything, education, skills training, healthcare, wellness, IT, certainly, energy, you name it, I'm sure there'll be a nice fit for that. So I just wanted to highlight that mission as well. And I think, on that note, I can conclude my discussion. I'm happy to answer questions and talk more about the Canadian market, whatever you're interested in.
I just have a quick question. It's a very basic question, but I think some of our new to export attendees could like to hear about it. At the very basic level, as I explained before the meeting started, after talking to literally hundreds of Hawaii companies over the past several years, meeting so many of them, when they hear the word export, they automatically associate exporting with Japan. And that's fine. In pre-pandemic, we would have a lot of Japanese tourists here. Hawaii has a lot of cultural, long-time connections with Japan. So it's natural to sort of think of Japan. However, Japan is not an easy market to enter, as you know, especially if it's your first export market. So I often tell our companies that they need to think about Canada or Mexico, or both of those first, because we have a free trade agreement. Can you just explain fundamentally what that means, a free trade agreement? Especially with Canada, because it's so close, at least to the mainland, it's close, but we have an enormous border and a long cultural history with them, and we share approximately the same language.
Sure. Happy to discuss that. Now, I know a lot of you have heard of NAFTA, and NAFTA, the North American Free Trade Agreement, was updated and replaced with what we call USMCA. That's the U.S. Mexico-Canada agreement with, I'll mention the Canadians call it CUSMA, so they call it the Canadian U.S. Mexico agreement. So one tip for you.
What is Mexico called? Musca,
certainly. So, under this agreement, again, I'm no expert on the details, but there's trade advantages. There's a framework for trade disputes, and that we do see a lot. I mentioned the trade relationship is the biggest and strongest that the U.S. has, but there are irritants. We see it in dairy, in softwood lumber, in some automotive issues. So operating under USMCA, you have a forum for settling and addressing any kind of trade challenges. And we do hear from companies about this. One example, again, this gets back to China. So the Chinese are snatching up properties, commercial and residential, in British Columbia, and basically just driving up the price and not even making use of these homes. And so the Canadians decided to put a ban on foreign purchase of homes that go unused. Well, there are a lot of Americans, as you can imagine, that have properties in Canada, summer homes, cottages, places on the lake. And they were like, wait a minute, what's going on? So they've come to us to look into it further. And this leads us to the USMCA. So once there's like an industry concern in any of these sectors, we can activate, look into it further, and ultimately it would probably pull in USTR, the U.S. Trade Representative, to address any kind of imbalances. So the agreement offers protection, it offers tariff advantages, and so you can that's a huge advantage for U.S. companies if you're looking at Canada and Mexico. So as Rob mentioned, it's I'd probably here in Hawaii, it's a natural tendency to think about Asia, but we would encourage you to look at Canada as well. It's interesting because this came up last week when I was in American Samoa. For those companies, they're looking to take goods to the U.S. mainland. Well, the commercial service, we don't assist with domestic sales. It's all about exports to foreign markets. So from where they are in the South Pacific, they could consider Australia, New Zealand, Fiji, any of the South Pacific markets. I mean, independent Samoa is just, half hour away. Although you cross the date line, it's a different day. But, and the commercial service can help with that. In posts where we don't even have people on the ground, we can assist. So just like I say, to consider Canada, these certainly the conference in Washington that takes place in September would be a great first look. And even if you don't join that conference, you could join the trade mission component to Canada or Mexico, and we'll take care of you. We'll set up some nice appointments for you under our matchmaking service.
How is the market in Canada now for organic goods and natural goods? There's a lot of Hawaii companies that make, of course, agricultural products that Annisa can talk about, but sunscreens and skin lotions and these types of things. We have some really fantastic products in Hawaii from smaller companies. And getting into Canada, well, let's backtrack. Getting into Japan can be a little difficult for them because those are considered cosmetic products and they go into a different class of testing that's required there. How about, does the USMCA help get those products into Canada easier? If they're good for the US, can they kind of skate into Canada pretty easy?
Oh, I like that skating. That's good.
Well, I should have mentioned, my grandmother was Canadian.
Oh,
So if anybody, I grew up speaking Canadian. So if anybody needs help translating their websites or whatever to Canadian, I can help.
yeah.
It's a little rusty.
Oh yeah. No, they have, there is a Canadian accent, Canadian English, and then I won't even get into the Quebecois because that's a whole other thing. But and of course, hockey is huge. I'm a big hockey fan personally. I even play up there, but it's huge. So, but to answer your question, I mean, in a word, yes. In fact, one thing the commercial service does is, we capture all of the good things we do. When we assist export transactions, we're on the hook for these performance measures. We call them wins. And I can tell you, even in this fiscal year, I've approved a win that was in the cosmetics, sector. And that was with I think it was a California company that had a success, finding a partner in Canada. So definitely. And in addition, the commercial service is, technically we help all U.S. companies. We help Boeing and Lockheed Martin and, you name it. But traditionally, our focus is on SMEs. So we welcome smaller, Hawaiian companies that have a kind of a special, unique product. We would definitely assist you with that. The way we're set up, I'm an American officer, but we have a team, a local staff, so Canadians who are our industry experts. And it so happens our cosmetics person is based in Montreal, but she helps. She has the national lead for all of Canada, so she would help you. Look at the market and assist you to get into the market. She's, in fact, I think she's going to a cosmetic trade event or happening in California. So we travel to shows in the US. So if you're attending any kind of trade show, there might be an opportunity to meet with some of our team there. One thing Robbie mentioned that also brings something to mind, and that is what's also interesting about Canada is they're pretty focused on environmental solutions, eco-friendly solutions, natural products, gluten-free products, this kind of thing. So if your Hawaiian companies can offer those kind of unique advantages, I think you'll have a great, you'll have a good chance of success in the Canadian market. So I definitely want to emphasize the indigenous angle that I mentioned earlier, and also the importance in Canada of environmentally friendly solutions.
Great. I'm going to trade seats with you. Thank you very much. We'll have questions at the end when people text them in.
Thank you. Wonderful. Thanks. Here.
Great. Next up is Annisa Estrella. She's from the Hawaii Department of Agriculture. Annisa was on an event that we did. Our first event of this current cycle was on exporting of agriculture in general, and she was kind enough to join and speak at that. And today she's going to talk about just Canada specifically. So Annisa, please.
Thank you, Rob. Hi, everybody. Good morning.
You're muted. Oh, okay. Please go ahead.
Can you hear me? Okay. Hi, everybody. Good morning. So let me share my screen for my presentation. Okay, so exporting to Canada. My name is Annisa. I am an economic development specialist here at the Hawaii Department of Agriculture and part of the market development branch. So our mission is to help Hawaii companies export and find other venues to sell. Also, we help companies here in Hawaii. So just to go over some topics about Canada. So Canada is a mature and stable market, so it's ideal for new to export companies. It's easier for them to get in and sell. Retailers there largely rely on imported fruits and vegetables, and they're also interested in carrying new and innovative kinds of products. So US products, their flavors are also aligned with Canadian tastes, and they're very familiar to Canadian customers. So it's a really good market. And also, they have a high disposable income. So they're also interested in pricier things like premium, high quality products and natural, organic, gourmet, and specialty food products. Canada is ethnically diverse, and there is a lot of different kind of communities there, and that likes all different flavors and cuisines. And more than 98% of US products can enter Canada duty-free and tariff-free under the USMCA that John was talking about. And the main involvement that Hawaii Department of Agriculture has in assisting companies to export to Canada is through WUSADA. So WUSADA is the Western United States Agricultural Trade Association, and Hawaii is a member. And through WUSADA, they have programs and services that allow the Western US businesses to learn, connect, and compete in the export market. WUSADA also helps with funding through fund match programs. And Hawaii may have more future missions in Canada or inbound missions where you would meet buyers, also learn about the market. But the next upcoming mission is actually open for registration right now. So this is very exciting. WUSADA, our Hawaii Department of Agriculture, is assisting New Mexico, and we're bringing a mission to Canada. If you'd like to take part, you can sign up. We're looking for specialty food and beverages such as sauces, salsas, spices, snacks, confectionaries, processed fruits and vegetables, oils, nuts, chocolate, candies, jams, jellies, coffee, tea, health and natural foods, even craft beer, wine, spirits, and other value-added products. So if you'd like to participate, WUSADA participants will have tailored meetings to showcase their products to specialty food and beverage buyers. And WUSADA will also pay for all ground transportation in Canada and transportation from Toronto to Vancouver, and also your lodging. So if you'd like to participate and meet buyers in Canada and grow your market there, it would only be a $300 participation fee, and you'd have to just find transportation to and from Canada, from Hawaii or wherever you are. But it's a really good opportunity for you to meet with people one-on-one in Canada, learn about the market, and make a lot of network connections. And it's also great because your transportation is paid for. So if you'd like to join, there is a link to register, but you can basically go to wusada.org to sign up. And when you look for the event, you could type in Canada and you'll see it come up. You can register online. And if you have any questions, you can speak to the WUSADA office, and they're based in Vancouver, but you can also contact me since I'll be working on this Canada mission. And we'd really like to get some Hawaii companies. If you are willing to go, or you know someone who wants to go and is ready to start exporting in Canada, it's a really great opportunity. Also, the thing is, so Jamie did mention that there's a lot of trade shows, and you could have assistance to go to these trade shows through HiStep. HiStep is a great program. Through HiStep, we did go to Gulf Food in Dubai, and all 3 coffee farmers that went had a really great time, and they met with many buyers and learned a lot about the market. So it's a really great opportunity to go to these trade shows and use the WUSADA programs. There's also other missions that you can go to, not just the one that I just presented, but if you go to WUSADA, I'll go back. If you go to wusada.org, there are all kinds of other events for export opportunities that you can learn about and attend. So HiStep and WUSADA are both very great tools if you want to start exporting. And so we don't have a trade show through the department that we actually go to in Canada, unfortunately. But as you can see here, these are the top 10 commodities that were exported to Canada, where fresh fruits and vegetables are in the top 5. And this is a great opportunity for Hawaii to seize, because I've observed a few things while at other trade shows, though not in Canada. I did learn from Canadian buyers. So I did attend the Global Produce and Floral Show last year in October. Next year it's going to be this year it's going to be in Anaheim. But at the show, I did notice that out of the 3,126 buyers that attended, there were 10 different groups of buyers that did come from Canada. And they specifically wanted to go to the Hawaii booth because they were looking for fresh fruits and vegetables, specifically ones that grow in abundance in Hawaii. So this is important because a lot of them also were of Asian ethnicity, and they're looking for those fruits and vegetables and flavors in value-added products that match their respective cultures. And these flavors are abundant in Hawaii, but it's more difficult for them to obtain in Canada. So it's a great potential market for Hawaii products that encompass a majority of those Asian-inspired flavors. It's a good opportunity for them to still sell to that market, the Asian flavor market. But easier because they can get through to Canada tariff-free and duty-free, and it's very easy to do so with the USMCA agreement. So if you're someone, and it's interesting that Rob had brought this up, if you're someone that's thinking, oh, export to Japan, but it's too difficult, there is still a market for these kind of Asian flavored products and Asian fruits and vegetables. A lot of the people that saw us at Global Produce and Floral Show and even at the National Restaurant Show, they were looking for shoyu-based flavor things and bok choys and squashes that they just don't have an abundance there. And it's easier for us in Hawaii to send those things to Canada, and it's a really great market. So pretty much make sure you try to sign up for WUSADA programs. There's many more to look at that are in Canada that you could be a part of. And you'll just have to go to wusada.org to register. If you have any questions, you can contact WUSADA, you can contact me. But the most important thing is right now, this specialty mission is open. So if you'd like to go to Canada for only a $300 participation fee and then just travel to and from Canada, this would be a great opportunity for you to take part of. And you can also call me. I'm sure Rob will provide contact information if you'd like to join or if you have more questions about it. But that's pretty much will conclude the HDOA's involvement with Canada and our outlook on Canada market, but it's a strong one.
Great, thank you, Annisa. And yes, I will be sending out the slides to all the registered email addresses, both John's and Anissa's slides. So with that, if anybody has any questions, please type them in to the Zoom chat. While I'm moving the screen, I do have a quick question. On the geography, Annisa pointed out on her slides that there's this WUSADA meeting or the event is in Vancouver, Washington. Can you just briefly explain to people the geography between Vancouver, Washington and Vancouver, British Columbia? That there's a difference and about how far is that?
Yeah, for sure. You know what? I don't know how close they are, but they're close enough, I think, where it is confusing. So Vancouver is the the major city in Columbia. And so that's the farthest west in Canada. And Vancouver is just north of Vancouver, British Columbia is just north of Seattle, right across the border. And if I'm not mistaken, there's Vancouver, Washington. I'm not sure how close it is to Vancouver.
Because it's right on the border with Oregon, so.
Yeah.
With Oregon.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's farther south.
It's definitely close.
Yeah.
But just to make sure people aren't confused, that
That
the meeting that Annisa was talking about is Vancouver, Washington.
It's in Washington. Yeah,
But,
so not British Columbia.
But the biggest city in Canada towards the west is
Correct.
Vancouver, British
Correct.
Columbia. That's a beautiful city.
Yeah, I haven't been there.
It's beautiful.
Farthest west I've been is California.
No, so companies will be able to go to Vancouver in Canada and Toronto.
Yeah. There was one
Okay.
other event you were pointing to that it said Vancouver, Washington. So that's all.
Oh,
Okay.
I'm sorry.
No problem. Okay, I think that there's no questions with that. So I'm going to close the meeting, but I would really like the takeaway to be thinking strongly about Canada for our Hawaii companies. Oh, please.
My question is in regards to, we hear a lot about for food and beverage and exports, but what about textiles and clothing from Hawaii, like aloha shirts?
Well, yeah, sure. So the question was about textile products, aloha shirts and what have you, because we had talked about food and beverage exports. But I think before you came in, we were talking about general exports of Hawaii products. And certainly the FTA or the USMCA that's in place would cover textile products and aloha shirts that are made here, and getting those to Canada, I think should be covered completely by the FTA, right? So there's no duties or anything like that that you might see if you were sending textiles to Japan or some other part of the world. So I would strongly encourage you to get involved in that.
But we would be eligible to also attend this trade mission in Canada as well.
Well, I don't think so, because this particular trade mission that Annisa was talking about is very food related. It's agriculture product, but there's certainly other events in Canada that you would be much more appropriate for your types of products.
Absolutely.
And just to mention, sorry, that there's only 7 spots left for that mission in Canada. And the registration closes on the 21st. So if you'd like to join, please try to register before then.
Only 7 spots. How many total spots are available?
We're looking at 12, so there's 4.
Oh, wow. Okay. Great. Okay. Again, with that, I'd like to close, but everybody, please think about the Canada market. I think that there's a lot of opportunities for our companies there. And because we don't have the return yet of a lot of Japanese tourists coming to Hawaii, Canada is our #1 visitor market coming from outside of the US. So we have an opportunity to market to Canadian visitors to Hawaii and then get them to order our products when they get back to Canada. So let's please think about that and keep that forefront for 2023 and 2024. Okay, with that, I'd like to close. Thank you, everybody. Thanks to our great speakers, Jamie from DBEDT, John Fleming from the U.S. Commercial Service in Ottawa, and Annisa Estrella from Hawaii Department of Agriculture here in Honolulu. Again, I'll be sending out these slides in PDF form with John and Annisa and Jamie's contact information included in those slides. So thanks again, everybody. Have a wonderful day. Aloha.
Thank you. Goodbye.